All right, well, a quick update. This is my clutch slave cylinder. I got it off the car last night. It's held on by these two clips, snap rings. And you can see there's little grooves for the snap rings. But this is a very simple device. I was able to get it apart. I'm going to try to reuse this. I could probably buy a new one very easily that I think has the exact same dimensions and would fit probably perfectly. I don't know. I'm thinking about that. I'll see how this cleans up on the inside, of course. And I'm going to use my trick to put it in the ultrasonic with evaporust and see how it comes out. The bore looks okay. I did not clean it yet, but I'm going to take all the corrosion off of it, and then I'm going to run a very light bore cleaner on the inside, so to speak, and see how that works out. These are the guts here. This is the piston. I took a look at the piston, and it looks pretty good. The seals look very good. Of course, if I get a new one, that's going to be moot. The internals are all good. No problems there. I've got that soaking in brake fluid just to try to loosen up some of the old corrosion and stuff on it. So I'll be looking at that later. Also, a little update on another product. This stuff here, Oil Flow, is a water-based, it's water-soluble solvent. And I found this stuff from way back in my Porsche 911 days because the guys there recommended that I use it. And because I'll tell you one thing, this thing takes off tar stains like no other product that you could possibly use that's as safe, I think, as this. Now, the reason I thought about using this for cleaning the undercarriage of the car and all the other components is that it's water soluble, and I'd be able to spray it on and just basically wash it off. So I tried it, and I think it works really well. As a matter of fact, it works so well, I bought a gallon of it on eBay. This stuff is 20 years old, and it worked like a charm. This thing was about half full. It's getting all the way down to the end. I figure, you know what, I'll probably be able to use a full gallon of it because I'm going to be cleaning. It takes off, by the way, the most important thing, which is the old cosmoline that's all over the car. So that's an update on that. I'll be showing some results. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let me see. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get some good, but it's looking pretty good under there. This was actually only after one treatment. I like the fact that I'd be able to spray with water to wash it off. And it also doesn't stink like the solvent-based chemicals I've been using. Anyway, it makes a mess. I hate doing this kind of stuff, but that's the way of the world. All right, this is prepped for the next paint job. I think I put in the earlier video, I went to a paint store and got a custom match for the paint on the car. It looked, at least from the sample I was playing around with, it looked perfect. And we're going to be painting this today. It's a little bit humid, it's raining. I'll probably be painting this on Sunday. And I'm going to be using a different setup. I'm going to be using the detail gun. Here's the detail gun. And I've got to dial it in to get it perfect, but I was test spraying it yesterday, And the thing is, I'm able to get a really, really fine mist out of it. That's an even, consistent mist. So I'm going to be doing some test spraying, maybe today or tomorrow, and we'll see how that works out. In the meantime, the number of parts on this car is accumulating. I mean, I've got parts all over the freaking place. So there's more parts off the car than on the car. But anyway, that's part of the deal. Oh, by the way, I bought this set of snap ring pliers on eBay for like 12 bucks. And you get a curved tip, straight tip, and you get at each an internal and external snap rings. So I had to modify one of them to actually get to the snap ring that was holding on the clutch sleeve. But I eventually, after about an hour and a half of struggling with it, I was able to actually turn the snap rings to get them in a better position so I could actually get to them. And so after I did that, it was not too difficult. All right, so onwards and upwards. We'll see how this works out, and we'll go from there. I got a hole in my hood. It looks like a bullet hole. It's over here. And of course, I don't know how the heck this happened, but I'm going to try to repair that. And what I'm going to do is use a tiny metal plug that I just created. I'm going to epoxy it in there, try to smooth it over, and then paint it. All right, this may be one of the stupidest ideas I ever had, but what the heck am I doing here? I am going to try to spot paint these areas here. By the way, I got the JB weld working over there. But I'm going to try to spot paint these, and what I did was I'm creating a mask that's actually offset up above the surface of the paint, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to spray it with primer and have a soft edge on it and see if that works. I've suspended it off the paint. Of course, I created this mask that I just created some dots. This is the stupidest thing I think I ever did. But it's got some logic to it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray some primer on there to try to get a very light mist onto the surface over there and see if that works. Or at least to get some primer on there. I might have to get 2 coats of high build primer on there and see what happens. Hey, you know what? It won't look worse than it did before. And I mean, this is so minimalist, it's crazy. But so let's see what happens. Well, this came out all right. It's a little messy looking, but I got some primer down on there. I'm gonna have to use a little bit of these 2 dots over here. Okay, boy, this looks terrible. I don't know, I might have to, I really don't want to paint that whole area, but I might end up doing, I might have to use a little bit of glazing putty over here. The high build primer, I don't think it's going to fill those holes. You can see that. All right, well, let's see. I don't know. You know, there's this little spatter all over the place. I don't know what the heck that stuff is, but I tell you one thing, it doesn't come off. I didn't want to paint this whole thing. I was going to leave those little spatter things because, you know what? It's part of the history of the car, I guess now. Oh, gosh. Yeah, what a mess here. Well, I decided to spot, to get rid of the spot painting, and I just feathered in some primer. Of course, I filled in the holes. They look pretty good, actually. And everything is masked off. And we're ready to shoot the color. This is going to be a little bit of a trick. I've never done this before. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. I've shot single stage color. I don't know why I didn't say that. But of course, I haven't done it with this car. So I'm going to do a little bit more masking off, and then we're going to be test shooting my gun, and we'll see how it goes. All right, well, I decided to do this area over again because I made a stupid decision. I want to put the paint line right on the edge over here, and up here only crossing over there, so it'll give the most inconspicuous repair possible. I also missed a spot over in here. I'm going to try to get down in there. This area doesn't look too bad, but what I discovered is that my painting technique yesterday couldn't have been worse. So what I'm going to try to do is have a finer spray, and hopefully it lays down a slightly, you can see the difference in color here, by the way, between here and here. That's just primer bleed through. I think that's original primer too. But that's a pretty big difference. But if I do this whole panel and kind of give it a light coat, maybe I'll get away with it looking a little bit better. It's funny how the angles make it look different. All right, so on to test spray number 2. All right, well, engine compartment's looking pretty good. I'm going to take another video of the results here when I can get some better light in here. It's a little bit overcast outside, but it's looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. I missed the spot over there. But anyway, I'm going to try to paint the Berman box right now. And I'm going to recycle some paint out of a spray can. And what do you mean recycle? Well, here's a spray can. I put a hole in it, let the gas out, and then put a larger hole in it, and I recovered the paint, which I'm going to use here. And I'm going to use a foam brush, and I'm just going to paint it over. Let's see how that works. Well, a little follow-up video. This is showing the painted area, and I think on your camera you can see the difference in color. It's not too bad. That's probably about as good as it's going to get. I put a lot of light coats on it. The engine compartment, especially this area over here, looks pretty good. It blended very well. It's kind of pebbly, but I wanted that. This engine compartment, you know what I did? I actually knocked this down with a little bit of abrasive. And I had to clean up, of course, the wiring harnesses a little bit. The hood strut I redid also with, all I used was an abrasive brush. And I just polished it, and then I clear coated it. It looks pretty good. So right now, like this morning, I am working on, I just refinished the top of the steering box, and the side of the steering box. I painted it by hand. So now I'm going to put the bolts back on and call that a day. And then I think I've got most of the engine compartment squared away. and really just waiting for parts now. It's mostly a story of waiting for parts. I am going to do, while I'm waiting, I am going to do some of the underside detailing under here. It's going to be a little bit of a trick. But that's what's on the agenda. I also sent out my brake rotors to be cut. And I will say this. There is nobody around who cuts brake rotors anymore because obviously they're not made to be cut anymore. Oh, by the way, these are the bolts for the top of the steering box. I painted them by hand. It came out pretty nice, actually, using that recycled paint. But anyway, back to the rotors. Nobody cuts rotors anymore. Everybody buys new rotors, of course, and you know, the new rotors are not made to be cut. In other words, they're made to spec, and they're really not made to be resurfaced naturally. That makes them lighter, less steel. But I found a place that will cut the rotors. However, the machine is down right now, so that's on hold. So right now, it's pretty much a waiting game. I'm just going to keep detailing stuff in here, and of course detailing the underside. While I've got the wheels and the hubs off, I'm going to be able to get in here and also do the rears. And see how that comes out. But other than that, it's a waiting game. I also am going to be getting a new clutch master. No, I should say clutch slave cylinder, because the original, I did not like the bore on the original. Believe it or not, it was in worse condition than the Masters, much worse condition on the inside. I could feel with my finger the scoring from the corrosion, so I'm going to be replacing that in total. So that's the update for this morning, and we'll catch up with you later. All right, well, we can title this one, "What the Heck Am I Doing Now?" Like I said, I'm continuing to do detailing work, and what I'm going to be doing is cleaning the wheel arches here. They're actually fairly clean, given how much the car, I guess, has been driven. But it needs to be cleaned a little bit. Like I said, I got to kill some time, and I might as well do it while all the parts are off the car. So let me explain the process that I do here. Now I'm working in a garage. It's 50 degrees outside and raining in the middle of, well, towards the end of February. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dry clean this with this brush and that brush. And I'm going to just scrape off all the loose dirt and get as much of that off as possible. While doing so, I'm going to be having a vacuum running, and you'd be surprised how much dirt will just come. Look at this, how much is just coming off by just scraping that off. So, you know, you want to take it off dry and get rid of as much as you can. And then what I'm going to do is use some orange cleaner, spray it up in the interior here, let that soak in for a while, and then I'm gonna mist it off. In the meantime, using this bucket, if you want to call that a bucket, this was a storage container that I bought in an estate sale, and I chopped the bottom off to use it as a catch basin. I wish I had two of these. You know, I'm working in small areas, so this is kind of containable. And it actually works fairly well. I did on the other side. I'm doing this side now. It'll take me about 45 minutes. By the way, while I'm brushing off this dust, I have a vacuum going right under here to catch the dust, because you will get a lot of very, 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 very fine dust floating all over the place. I should probably wear a gas mask. I mean a mask, ventilated. I'm looking over at the differential over there. I got to get to that. Well, anyway, so that's what I'm going to do. I'll post some pictures after I'm done. It looks really nice after it dries. Of course, it doesn't look quite as nice. It's got that, wet black look. But I'll post some pictures after I'm done later this afternoon. If you do. All right, this is an ugly mess. This is the tailpipe. And this is a gasket that is welded on by just corrosion to the inner pipe. This is supposed to be like, for lack of a better word, an asbestos type gasket. But it is welded on there. I mean, I've been whacking at it with a hammer to try to get it off. Hammer and chisel, of course. But I may be ruining this for the sake of getting this old gasket off. I mean, it's like metal, this gasket. But it is, according to the parts, the parts diagram, it is a gasket. So I guess it's a gasket that it looked like it was asbestos impregnated with some kind of reinforced metal. But I'll tell you one thing, it is tougher than nails because of how it got welded on here. So I'm trying to figure out a way to get this thing off of here, or I might have to chuck the whole tailpipe. You can see the inner lip of the muffler pipe. Actually, this is the tailpipe. Oh, excuse me. So I'm thinking of getting out my angle grinder again and just starting to grind down this outer to try to get to this inner. I mean, it's going to be a trick. I might have to angle grind it and then use a file. I don't know. I'm stumped. All right, well, this is what we got after struggling with this thing. This is what came off of here. And you could swear that this stuff is metal. I don't know what the heck this stuff is, but it certainly turned into metal, so I had to chip away. Well, it was a combination of using an angle grinder. So what I did is I took the angle grinder and I ground like a channel over here, and then I went in with a chisel. This chisel. And just slammed it. And it came off in chunks. Chunks like this. I don't know if that's focusing. And as you can see, there's a pretty good amount of metal that's gone. So of course the question is this repairable? Of course I could JB weld in just some metal, some epoxy around here. I mean, this joint probably, it's reinforced, but of course I'd rather have metal in here. Now I could angle grind this, cut it right off at the lip over here, and weld in a pipe, but it would have to be the exact same dimension here as with its mate. So I don't know, the jury's out on that. I got to see what dimension this pipe is and see if I can get a piece I have a welder who can weld this in. You know, if we angle grind this flat and clamp it, he can definitely weld it. And it would only be, you know, this lip is only like 1/4 of an inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch. I'd rather use metal, and he could just stitch it all the way around, cut it off, and then we're good to go. Well, here we are on a Sunday morning. It's cold outside, and I wanted to give you an update on my brake calipers. What I did is I sandblasted, I should say I soda blasted the calipers, and this is what they look like. I think that's original finish. I think these were they're zinc plated and they had a chromate. I'm not going to go that far, but this is what they look like coming out of the soda blaster. They look pretty nice on the outside, but then when I started to look at the bores, I got a little concerned. They look kind of grungy. So what I decided to do was split the calipers. Now, of course, they're held on by bolts, and this is a bolt. Now, takes a 14mm nut, but this bolt, even though it looks like a star bolt, is not a star bolt. It's what's called a ribe bolt, R-I-B-E, and it takes a special bit. It's R-I-B-E bit, and it fits in there a little bit better than a star. These are probably torqued down to about 60 foot-pounds or so. It wasn't that hard to get out, but what I was very concerned about was the fact that a lot of media got into the passages. So I decided to split them, and of course you could see where the sandblasting did not get into these areas, which I really don't care that much about, but I do care about these bores. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my handy pick tool. I'm going to pull out the seals, and then I'm going to use some wire brushes to clean out these bores. And although the most critical thing is the seal on the piston, the pistons are critical. The bores on the caliper are not, but I'm going to clean them out anyway. I did clean up the pistons. You know, I put them in a soda blasting also. Yeah, you know what? It's a pain in the neck to open. The piston, the critical part is this piston surface, and these are really beautiful. There's some corrosion on there. That's not critical. Doesn't even really have to be cleaned up, but I did shoot them pretty good, so they're all pretty cleaned up. And I cleaned up the hardware somewhat. It's very, very recyclable, so I'll be using that. So in the meantime, I'm going to be working on these bores on these calipers, and I used a little abrasive wheel in there to clean these out, and then I'm going to shoot them through with some brake fluid just to clean them out, and then we'll go from there. All right, well, a quick update on progress with the brake calipers. I was able to rebuild all of the front calipers, and essentially what I did here is I refinished these nuts and bolts. Basically what I did is, these are the rears, but this is what I did is I cleared them, I polished them on a wire wheel. And the color, the original, these I think are black chromated. Not 100% sure, but they had a black shiny finish for the most part. So what I did was I just put them in this thing and I polished them over on a wire wheel, and I cleared them over with, I think this is enamel, because these had a shine to them. These are the rears, but I did the same thing on the fronts. Very time-consuming work, I have to say. Now, I was able to put the front calipers back together because I had a rebuild kit that I had bought, I think, on eBay. An original Ate Classic rebuild kit. That number is probably important to somebody, but it does both calipers. So I was able to finish both calipers. The pads are fine. I put these in Soda Blaster, and they came out pretty nice. They've got a ton of meat on them, so they're actually perfectly fine. Now, again, what I did is I split these the same way. These are the rears. I'm not going to be able to finish the rears because I do not have the rebuild kit yet for the rear caliper, so I'm going to have to wait until I get my big parts order from overseas at Classic Alfa. But anyway, what I did here is these were soda blasted also. I got them down to, whatever's remaining of the original finish. These are the inspection marks, by the way. They are blue pass inspection marks. For some reason, the fronts didn't have it, but the rears did. Or the fronts, it came off the front. I'm not sure. But anyway, everything in here was polished. There was only very minor corrosion. I didn't clean the insides as well as the outsides because you see the outside. The inside's going to get covered in brake dust anyway over time. But all these little nooks and crevices were cleaned out, and the operating surfaces were redone. So that's pretty much it for the calipers. This part of the project is gonna have to be put on hold, like everything else is put on hold, because now I am really waiting for parts. I mean, I've got my master cylinder, my cylinder head down here. That's all waiting for parts. I bought a new slave cylinder because the old slave cylinder, well, I put that in the way there, but there was a little bit too much corrosion on the inside. So I bought a new slave cylinder. The dimensions for, I'm going to recycle the clips here. And the critical dimension is the spacing between these, where the snap rings go. And the dimension there is exactly the same as the dimension here. The operating length is a little bit different, but that's probably going to be taken up by the travel of the piston and the bore. But so essentially I'm going to recycle of course, that little bit of hardware here and this. Everything else is going to go into the history bucket as reference items, or if something ever becomes an urgent need. So this is made in Italy, by the way. This is what you get from, I bought this from International Auto Parts, and I spent more money on this because it is better quality, from what I could see, a better quality from what you would get otherwise. So that's a quick update. We are going to be quickly running out of things to do. Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to mention. Back on the brakes. What I did, remember that magic rust inhibiting paint I told you about? I painted this side of the pistons because this was corroded. Of course, I cleaned up the corrosion as best I could, but I painted it over with that epoxy paint to encapsulate the rust. So these are not going to be rusting anytime soon. This is the operating end. Well, this joins, is the operating end for the pad itself, but This anti-corrosion stuff will keep these pretty clean for a long time to come. Anyway, that's the update for now. I'll catch you later. Another thing I did over the weekend is I had a new piece of pipe welded onto my muffler, and it's tack welded in here. And I don't know if you can see in there, but you can see the old flange. And what I did is I found a 1 7/8 pipe that fits over it, and what I'm going to do is cut it to the original length. You know, this flange over here just holds the exhaust. There's actually a seal, a flange that goes between the mating surface here. You know, it goes around the circumference here. And well, anyway, what I'm going to do is do a test cut to try to approximate how this only comes up about 1/4 of an inch, or maybe a 1/2 an inch up here. So I'm going to do a test cut around here, see how close I am by measuring how close I come to the original, and then I'll just back it off maybe another 1/4 inch here, and I should be right on it. This is not a very precise fit with the mating surface, but I'm going to be working on that right now with my old hacksaw. All right.